Unbelievable 1v1 fights in medieval history that will haunt you tonight. The moon hung heavy in the sky as shadows danced across the blood-soaked ground, and whispers of forgotten champions echoed through the misty air. There are stories, strange stories, of battles fought not in grand arenas but in silent patches of earth, where one knight faced another in combat that would shake the very foundations of history. Imagine the clash of metal on metal, the din of desperate cries for mercy and the final, chilling silence that follows. That in a forgotten corner of the world, two figures stood motionless, swords glinting under the dim light. The air was thick with tension, each fighter feeling the weight of their ancestors' expectations pressing down like an anvil. It said that one knight, Sir Aldrich, fought with a ferocity that made the bravest quiver. He once took on a beast of a man, a giant whose sheer bulk made the very earth tremble. He defeated him not with brute strength but with a cunning that would echo through the ages. No one knows how he did it. Some say he had a pact with dark forces. As tales of their legendary duels circulated through taverns and noble halls, strange happenings began to surround these warriors. At night, people claimed to hear the clang of swords clashing in the mist, even long after the fighters were gone. Was it just the wind, or were their spirits still fighting? Others spoke of lights flickering where the battles took place, as if the past had bled into the present, yearning for recognition. People stood frozen in fear, eyes wide with shock, while others murmured amongst themselves, convinced they witnessed a ghostly replay of every brutal encounter. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With each duel, the stakes grew higher. One fateful night, under a blood-red sky, a duel commenced that would change everything. Sir Aldrich faced off against a rival who had sworn vengeance, an eerie figure cloaked in black, eyes glinting with malice. Legend has it that as they fought, the ground shook, and the fog thickened, swirling around them like a shroud. Gasps of horror erupted from onlookers as the two men unleashed their fury, a visceral dance of life and death. The air crackled with suspense. And then, a scream pierced through the chaos. What happened next would etch itself into the annals of time, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and a deep sense of dread. Was the battle won, or had something darker claimed victory? With this haunting incident, tales of the duelers took on a life of their own, spilling into folklore and inviting all those brave enough to inquire further into the depths of medieval history. What lay beneath the legends, and who would dare to uncover the chilling truth? A thick fog rolled through the remnants of the battlefield, cloaking everything in an unsettling silence. The air was pregnant with the scent of blood and earth, swirling memories haunting the very ground where the duel had taken place. Those who remained could hardly breathe, their hearts pounding as adrenaline coursed through their veins, each soul shivering from the sheer intensity of the moment. That in the shadows, a figure emerged, cloaked in darkness, the tattered edges of his garment swaying as he moved. This was not just any spectator, he had come seeking answers, delving deep into the legacies abandoned by time. His name was Wilhelm, an obsessive historian driven by a fear that thrived on the echoes of those long departed. The legends fascinated him, but it was the lingering sense of despair that clutched his thoughts. He could hear their whispers, begging to be unraveled, to reach the light once more. As he approached the site, an unnatural chill gripped the air, making the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. Wilhelm drew closer, determined yet wary, his heart in his throat. Ignoring the warnings of villagers who steered clear of the cursed ground, he knelt, tracing his fingers through the damp earth. It was as if the surface was alive beneath his touch, pulsing with stories waiting to be told. In that moment, a flicker of light erupted nearby, bright and sudden, startling him. He squinted against its brilliance, and suddenly, images flashed before him: Sir Aldrich fighting with reckless abandon, the figure in black attacking with a dark, inhuman fury. He could almost hear the clash of swords mingling with the cries of anguish, an orchestra of chaos. Wilhelm's breath caught, the vision consuming him like a tempest, and he stumbled back, eyes wide with terror. "Who dares summon me?" A voice boomed from the shadows, deep and resonant like rolling thunder. Wilhelm spun around to see a silvery apparition manifesting from the very fog he had been marveling at. It wore the face of a knight long gone, its features both regal and terrifying, with eyes that glimmered like steel under the moonlight. "I am but a historian seeking the truth," Wilhelm stammered, backing away slowly. "The tales of your battles have haunted generations. I wish to know, what became of Sir Aldrich?" The apparition's laughter chilled him to the bone, echoing in the oppressive silence. "Truth?" It spat, eyes narrowing. "You fail to understand, historian. The truth is a weapon, wielded by those who know the darkness that lies beneath." With that, the figure's form shifted, revealing more tumultuous scenes of betrayal, anger, and vengeance that sprawled toward the horizon of time. Wilhelm felt a deep shiver as if the ground beneath him was shifting. A bone-chilling realization hit him: the tales weren't merely stories, they were warnings. What darkness? He breathed, trying to grasp the enormity of what he was witnessing. Before he could receive an answer, the vision shattered into 1,000 pieces, plunging Wilhelm into pitch-black nothingness. As he struggled to breathe, dread washed over him. Had he ventured too far? What force had he unearthed? Panic set in as he felt the ground vibrating beneath him, an unmistakable signal that something ancient was awakening. Suddenly, the air was filled with the sound of galloping hooves, and distant cries echoed, reverberating through the darkness. He realized, with rising fear, he was not alone. Who else lurked in this spectral realm, and what fate awaited them all? The questions loomed heavy in the air, thick like the fog, a haunting reminder that the past will not stay buried. Would the truth bring light or darkness, and what soul would rise to answer the call? The darkness blurred around Wilhelm, the suffocating void stirring the last remnants of his resolve. Panic curled in his chest like a python, squeezing the breath from his lungs. He staggered, the echo of hoofbeats vibrating beneath his feet. All around him, the atmosphere thickened, charged with an electric tension that stung in his nostrils. "Stay calm. Think," he whispered, though it felt like a futile mantra. The world around him was shifting, drawing him deeper into a confusion he had never wanted to face. Was he losing his grip on reality? Or had he trespassed into a realm reserved for ghosts and forgotten memories? Then, from the murky depths, a shadow emerged, a dark figure galloping with a speed that relayed fury. As it came closer, details sharpened: an armored rider, the outline of a steed trotting with a rhythmic fury, and a blade glinting ominously. "Wilhelm!" The voice boomed, cutting through the chaos like a sword through flesh. "You must flee." He knew that voice, a familiar calling from the legends he studied tirelessly. Sir Aldrich, the brave knight whose fate he sought to uncover, was alive. Or at least a remnant of his essence was. But it was too late for questions. The galloping figure approached with the inevitability of a storm. "Who?" Wilhelm stammered, adrenaline surging through him. "There is no time." Aldrich's spirit bellowed, anger and urgency mingling like fire and ice. "You've awakened the darkness. You must escape while you can." But the spectre wasn't finished speaking before the ground beneath them split open with a deafening roar, unleashing a torrent of shadows. Wilhelm felt himself being drawn toward the gaping abyss, chaotic tendrils of blackness clawing at his ankles, stealing his breath and crushing his will. "No!" he gasped, fighting back wildly. He stumbled away, desperate to escape the entity born from the ancient tales. The knight's warning rang in his mind, a desperate plea for salvation. "Fight! Remember who you are!" Aldrich shouted, even as the shadows reached for him. The inevitability of his presence shattered Wilhelm's fear, igniting a flicker of resolve deep within him. "What if I can't?" he yelled back, his voice barely above a whisper, lost in the raging storm of chaos. "Then you will become part of the darkness," Aldrich warned, voice distant, blending into the chaos as another figure flickered into existence, a monstrous silhouette looming from behind. With a trembling heart, Wilhelm grabbed a stone from the ground, the mere weight of it grounding him in the turmoil. He wasn't ready to succumb, he refused to surrender to the shadows that wove lies and despair. He dashed toward Aldrich, the knight's essence pulsing with power beside him, yet the darkness lunged, wrapping around Wilhelm's body as if sensing his growing defiance. "Who are you, coward?" A twisted voice slithered through the air, a mocking laughter echoing in the spectral void. The shadows surged around him like a tidal wave, almost swallowing him whole. Wilhelm clenched his teeth, every nerve ending screaming in defiance. "I am the seeker of lost truths," he shouted, feeling the words ripple through the dark. "I want to be consumed." As he boldly engaged the abyss, the grey world around him shattered, forcing him to confront visions of his past, the inevitability of familial betrayal, the unanswered questions of history. But suddenly, a blinding light erupted from the ground beneath him, illuminating faces of those long gone, visions of hope trapped within grief. Their cries carved through the thickness of despair, calling for liberation. Together, Aldrich's spirit thundered, echoing through the chaos. With a surge of strength, Wilhelm raised the stone high, channeling the spirit surrounding him in a desperate attempt to push back the darkness. But would it hold? As light met shadow, a deafening silence enveloped the battlefield, leaving Wilhelm suspended in uncertain anticipation. Could one leap of faith turn the tides, or would he plunge headlong into darkness? The truth lay there, waiting to be unshackled. What would be lost, and what would be gained? The light exploded into the void like the dawn breaking on the horizon, illuminating the twisted faces of the creatures lurking within the shadows. The shadows screamed, a cacophony of rage and hatred clawing at Wilhelm's sanity. He gritted his teeth, holding the stone aloft, defiance coursing through his veins like wildfire. Time stretched as the world teetered on the brink of destruction, each heartbeat thundering in his ears. Suddenly, the darkness bucked against the power of the light, swirling violently, trying to engulf him. Wilhelm felt the heat of the stone against his palm, a reminder of hope, a rallying cry amidst despair. He could hear Aldrich, urging him on, but the knight's voice was drowned by the growing tempest of shadowy figures, their faces twisted in grotesque displays of desperation. "Don't give in." Aldrich's voice rose above the storm, sharp and commanding as he loomed beside Wilhelm in shimmering armor. "Focus your will. You have the strength of those who fought for their truths. They're with you." Images flooded Wilhelm's mind: family who had long since passed, friends who had betrayed him, all the moments of joy shadowed by grief. Each face flickered, gaining life in the brilliant glow. He remembered their laughter, their love, their agony. The realization crashed down on him like a wave, the weight of their history fell squarely on his shoulders, yet the shadows retaliated, writhing closer, like serpents eager to swallow their prey whole. They whispered promises of peace, of release from suffering. "Join us," they hissed, "embrace the void, it's where you belong. Give in, and you will find rest." The temptation wrapped around him, seductive and warm. But something lingered in the air, an electric charge from the light. "No." Wilhelm growled, shaking off the whispers as he steadied his grip on the stone. "What if I fail?" He shouted back at the encroaching darkness, fear curling his gut. Aldrich's spirit drew closer, backing the shadows away with an ethereal glow. "Remember your purpose, your truth. Fear is where the darkness thrives, it feeds off doubt. You are not alone." With those words, Wilhelm found clarity amid the chaos. He could see the point of light piercing through the blackness, a beacon of possibility that spurred him forward. He raised the stone higher, its brilliance flaring against the encircling dark. He could feel the warmth of the spirits at his back, their energy flowing through him like a mighty river. Together, he chanted, the word becoming a battle cry against the roar of shadows. With a surge of newfound power, he smashed the stone into the ground, unleashing an explosion of light that rippled outward, scattering the encroaching darkness. It howled like a wounded beast, shadows breaking apart as wisps of smoke. He gasped as fragments of memory moments of truth fled the darkness, reborn in luminous bursts, but just then, a figure emerged from the shadows, massive and towering. It bled darkness like a storm cloud, eyes glowing like fiery coals. A growl shook the air. "You think you can defy me?" It rumbled, voice more terrifying than any nightmare. "You have just awakened the wrath of the abyss." Wilhelm's heart raced as he faced this monstrous entity, the darkness coiling around its form. He realized then the fight was far from over. The battle had escalated, and he was caught in its eye. That realization formed a chill trickle creeping up his spine. He could not back down now. The light flickered with hope, but what if it wasn't enough? What was this creature, and what did it want? Wilhelm took a step forward, the ground trembling beneath him as he stood firm, ready to face the very thing that threatened to consume everything. What dark truths lay at the core of that shadow, waiting to be unleashed? Would Wilhelm conquer his ultimate challenge, or had he merely awakened a greater evil? A wave of dread washed over Wilhelm as the creature loomed within the splinters of fading light. Its presence crackled with dread, each breath it took darkened the air further. Unfathomable hatred radiated from the creature, threatening to suffocate him. The shadows twisted around it, writhed like living beasts, and each one seemed to carry the whispers of his past failures. "You are nothing." The creature bellowed, its voice a deep rumble that resonated through the ground beneath him. "You are merely a flicker in the vastness of the void. Submit, and I shall grant you relief." The offer hung in the air, heavy with temptation. Wilhelm clenched his fists, feeling his heart pound wildly against his ribs. Relief. The thought was intoxicating, easing the aching weight of conflict, but the memories of those he'd lost flickered like stars in the night sky. "No!" he screamed, forcing the sound from deep within. "You've taken enough from me." The entity recoiled slightly, its burning eyes narrowing in surprise. "Then you shall suffer." It extended an arm, and dark tendrils lashed out, seeking to ensnare him in a vice of night. Wilhelm darted to the side, adrenaline surging. The shadows staggered, recoiling from the light. "Stand your ground." Aldrich's voice echoed in him like a drumbeat urging action. The night's spirit shimmered with hope. Those bright memories coursed through Wilhelm again, a family, laughter, all the love he had been gifted, and he didn't want to let go. Raising the stone once more, he summoned every ounce of his strength, illuminating the battlefield. "I will not yield." Light flooded the space between them, as a blazing sphere erupted from the stone, forcing the tendrils back with hisses of ire. The beast lurched, reeling from the brilliance surging toward it. Yet, as the shadows thrashed and screamed in retreat, fresh waves of darkness rolled in behind. They pushed forward like a tsunami, threatening to overwhelm his resolve. "Don't stop." Aldrich encouraged, determination feeding him strength. "You have the power of your truth behind you." With renewed vigor, Wilhelm pressed on, charging into the heart of the shadows. "This is for everyone you've wronged," he shouted as he unleashed a blast of light, cascading through the thickened gloom that surrounded him. A series of anguished wails erupted as the darkness recoiled, twisting in frantic desperation. Wilhelm could almost feel it pulling at him, trying to drag him down into its despair. Panic clawed at him, a tight knot of fear coiling in his chest. He had to keep the light roaring. He had to expose the monster roiling in front of him. The creature, seething now, lunged forward, summoning a wave of darkness that crashed against him like the ocean. Wilhelm gritted his teeth against the force and pushed harder, the stone glowing brighter, fueled by the memories that surrounded him. Suddenly, from within that chaos, he caught sight of a flicker, a small, faint spark holding strong against the relentless tide. A beating heart caught in the depths of despair. Who is that?" he gasped, confusion and realization colliding. The intensity of an unknown bond pressed upon him like never before. The beast laughed, a guttural growl that reverberated against the stone walls. "You truly believe you can save them? Weakness is your nature, and it will be your downfall." Yet, in that moment, Wilhelm felt the bonds of hope tighten around him, lifting him higher. "It's not over," he whispered, stealing himself. I refuse to lose anyone else. But just then, the ground shook violently, splitting beneath him, and the shadows surged, readying themselves for one final push. In that flash of chaos, the spark flickered dangerously, as if it were on the brink of extinguishing. Would he be able to harness this flicker of life before the darkness snuffed it out? Was it truly possible to save what seemed lost forever? With his heart pounding in his ears, Wilhelm faced the storm, embracing the chaos as he prepared for the next confrontation, casting an anxious glance toward that flickering light. What awaited him there could change everything. As the shadows converged, he felt the weight of decisions looming. What cost would he have to pay to bring back that glimmer of hope? Would he be ready to fight a battle far deeper than the physical? The shadows writhed and swirled around Wilhelm, a living tempest of darkness ready to engulf him. His heart raced, that flicker of light pulling at him with a desperate urgency. Each moment stretched like a taut string, vibrating with tension. He had to act. With a fierce roar, he plunged forward, the stone trembling in his grip. Light burst forth again, brighter and more intense. It blazed like a beacon, casting pale shadows away in every direction. The creature screamed, a sound that split the silence, filled with pure rage and terror, as it recoiled from the force of Wilhelm's resolve. "Bring it on!" Wilhelm shouted, his voice ringing out. "I will fight for everyone you've taken." The light grew with each word, fueled by his determination and the echoes of loved ones lost to despair. But the darkness wasn't done. The creature seemed to gather itself, its form shifting and twisting into grotesque shapes. Tendrils of shadow lashed at him again, a dizzying dance of chaos and pain. Wilhelm dodged, weaving through the oncoming onslaught, anger igniting a fire deep within him. "Focus!" Aldrich's voice surged through his mind, a foundation of strength in the tumult. Wilhelm blinked against the swirling dark, remembering sacrifices made, and faces of those who depended on him. With a deep breath, he steadied himself. He felt the pull of the flickering heart, a strong pulse deep within the depths of despair. Was it a friend? A loved one? He couldn't back down now. He would find the source of that light no matter the cost. As he plunged deeper, the ground beneath him cracked and became treacherous, jagged rocks jutting up like the teeth of some ravenous beast. Each step was fraught with danger, but he felt alive. The warmth of the stone surged as he held it close, channeling that flicker of hope. Suddenly, the creature unleashed a tempest of shadow, a maelstrom of darkness that swirled around him like a storm. Wilhelm was knocked to the ground, breathless, grasping for the stone as darkness clawed at him, an eerie whisper echoing in his ears. "You cannot save what's already lost." "No." He roared back. "I won't give up." The power of his voice rang out, growing as the light surged in response, a wall of brilliance that threw back the shadows. Through the chaos, he glimpsed the flicker again, brighter now, fighting to survive. It was connected to him in ways that stirred something deep in his soul. Could it be someone he thought he would never see again? Fear enveloped him, twisting in his gut like a knife. "Please," he whispered, the words tasting of desperation. "Hold on, I'm coming." With a surge of strength, he lifted the stone, directing the light like a sword into the heart of the dark. The bright radiance pulsed, illuminating the faces of the shadows, revealing twisted figures contorted in anguish. They were reflections of past pain, memories lurking within. But he couldn't waver. "Not now," the creature roared again, but the sound was nothing compared to the cacophony of Wilhelm's resolve. The shadows began to fracture, breaking apart under the incandescent glow. He moved forward, charging toward the flicker, drawing on every ounce of energy left in his body. But with each step, he could feel a price being demanded. A cost only he could pay. The tendrils lunged toward him, aiming to rip him apart, but each pulse of light pushed them back, revealing more of what lay hidden beneath the onslaught of shadows. And then, he saw it, a face, familiar yet distant, awash in the light. Wilhelm. It echoed, his name hanging in the air like a fragile promise, with that spark dancing before him, Wilhelm understood the truth crashing over him like tidal waves. The shadows swirled with anger, desperate to protect their secret. Would the discovery of this flickering soul unearth secrets buried deeper than he ever imagined? As dread mixed with hope, Wilhelm felt he was on the brink of a revelation that could change everything. Who was calling out to him from the shadows? And what would he have to sacrifice to bring them back into the light? The moment stretched like a taut rubber band ready to snap. Wilhelm's pulse thundered in his ears. He could see the face clearer now, its contours sharpening in the brilliance of exposed light. It filled his heart with a fierce longing, but a chill of dread clawed at the edges of his mind. How could she be here, after all this time? The flicker beckoned, but so did the shadows, crowding in with icy fingers, tightening their grip. Don't you dare give up on me. The voice was a faint wisp inside the storm of clamoring shadows, yet it felt like a lifeline. It wasn't just a plea, no, it was a command. A fight for survival united them in a moment that felt like eternity. Her presence sparked something deeper in him, lighting a fire he thought had been extinguished long ago. Wilhelm charged forward, the stone pulsing wildly, matching the erratic rhythm of his heart. The weight of the past pressed hard against him, an old guilt he could never fully escape. The journey to this point had been riddled with loss, but this moment was different. He was close now, so close to rekindling hope for both of them. A roar burst from the creature as it unleashed torrents of darkness, wrapping around his limbs like chains of despair. Panic flared, threatening to sweep him away. He stumbled, the air thick with malice, suffocating him. But then the radiant stone surged in his grasp, illuminating the path with a welcoming embrace. Wilhelm grasped the energy, redirecting it toward the waves of shadow that lunged like predatory beasts. Get away from her! He screamed. The shadows hissed, recoiling momentarily, revealing the true horror hidden within their depths. The figures formed before him, twisted souls of those lost to darkness, faces of pain morphing into something unrecognizable. Wilhelm's heart twisted in response. These were the people he had failed to save. They clawed at his conscience, echoing in his mind. Do you really think you can rescue her? They jeered, voices merging into one cacophony of despair. Shut up. Wilhelm gritted his teeth, pushing through the noise. His focus narrowed on the flickering light, on her face, now glimmering with life's essence amidst the chaos. He felt her energy entwined with the light, creating a tapestry of brightness that challenged the shadows. With determination, he readied himself. Each pulse of the stone, each surge of hope, pushed him closer. He could see it now, the way her lips moved, a silent prayer directed at him. She was fighting, too. The strength in her eyes ignited a fierce resolve within him. Stay strong. His voice held the tremor of urgency, but also assurance. I'm coming. Then it happened. A blinding wave of light erupted from the stone, bursting forth like a supernova. The shadows shrieked and writhed, their forms dissolving under the sheer force of his will. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. Wilhelm was engulfed in the brilliance, his flesh humming as the power swirled wildly around him. But strapped to his inner turmoil was a chilling realization: the energy he wielded was finite. With every thrust of light sent toward those lurking in the dark, there was an equal cost, pulling at the very fabric of his being. Would the price be his own soul? As he neared her, the shadows struggled fiercely, coiling around his legs, clawing at his resolve. But he was undeterred. You won't take her. The flicker of light pulsated wildly, and he felt the unity between them grow stronger. Just as he reached out, a piercing pain shot through his chest, sharp, unforgiving. The shadows had found their mark. Hans had warned him of the toll darkness could take, but he thought he could resist. He gasped, doubling over, the weight of the shadows pressing down with unyielding force, each breath becoming a battle. Would he be able to uncover the truth once and for all, or would this quest cost him not just his life, but the light itself? Wilhelm. Her voice broke through the chaos, but it was laced with urgency and fear. Hold on. Could he rally just a bit more strength? As the shadows tightened their grasp, Question lingered in the air: how much would he sacrifice to save her? His heart, his soul, or perhaps something much more profound? The last tendrils of darkness were still moving, still breathing, leaving him to wonder if victory would come at an even deeper cost than he had feared. The pain in Wilhelm's chest rattled through him like a bell tolling a dire warning. He clutched the glowing stone tighter, the brightness flickering in rhythm with his heartbeat. With each pulse of light sent forth, he felt the shadows respond, coiling tighter, their icy grip like iron shackles clamping onto his body. He knew he was running out of time and energy. The weight of despair bore down on him, and doubt began to creep in. "Wilhelm. Please." Her voice reached him again, breaking through the dark haze. He felt it like a lifeline, but with the crushing pressure of the shadows, would it be enough? He grit his teeth, pushing through the fog that clouded his thoughts. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight for her. "Stay with me, I'll get you out of here." The words fought to escape his lips, heavy with the desperation he felt clawing at him from inside. Wilhelm thrust the stone forward, sending another wave of light cascading through the shadows. They shrieked, and something inside Wilhelm twisted with each agonized cry. It felt like tearing pieces of his own soul away. The hauntings of lost souls surrounded him, their accusations echoing in an endless loop, reminders of every failure, every moment he didn't save them. The flickering light pulsed, and for a heartbeat, it seemed to sweep the shadows back, revealing glimpses of an endless battlefield, a realm where heroes once fought and fell. Around him, fallen warriors whispered in voices laden with sorrow. "Turn back, save yourself," one of them called, a face he recognized as someone he admired. "You cannot save her from this." "No," he thundered, shaking his head, defiant against their murmurs. He couldn't afford to back down. The bravery he had always admired in others thudded in his chest like a war drum. Wilhelm lifted his chin, pushing through memories of friends faded away. "I won't abandon her." His heart raced, churning within him like a storm. He reached out toward her, his hand stretching through the dark tendrils blocking their path. The pull of the shadows intensified, almost mocking him. A wave of doubt washed over him like icy water. Would he lose himself in this fight? Yet, as he strained against the oppressing weight, the flickering light brightened. It surged as if fueled by his resolve, expanding outward, pushing back the suffocating darkness. In that moment, he saw her eyes again, glistening with determination, reflecting his courage back at him. "I believe in you," she shouted, her voice a beacon amid the chaos. The shadows recoiled, hissing as the light began to build an impenetrable wall, a barrier forged from their shared strength. He inhaled a ragged breath, feeling the fleeting nature of his energy but refusing to yield. Adrenaline coursed through him, sharpening every sense. With one last scream of defiance, he slammed his free hand down, slicing through the darkness like a warrior charging into battle. A brilliant flash erupted, overwhelming the shrieks of despair. The blinding light engulfed them both. For a brief moment, time froze. But just as quickly as the light appeared, a crackling darkness rushed in, angry and hungry. It swarmed back like a ravenous tide, grasping at him, threatening to swallow him whole. He could feel his soul unraveling under the onslaught. No. Not now. Wilhelm. Her voice rang out, a jolt of electricity that tethered him to reality amidst the chaos. He faced the shadows now, rage igniting within him. "You want her? You'll have to take me first." He flung the stone once more, and an explosion of light erupted, illuminating the entire realm. The shadows shrieked, but he stood firm, pushing back with everything he had left. Then, he felt a wrenching pull from deep within. The life force around him flickered, swaying dangerously. Would he have to pay the ultimate price? With a shaky breath, he focused on the light, envisioning her safety, their future intertwined, his hands steady. But just as he prepared to unleash his final act of defiance, something shifted in the shadows, a form emerging from the depths, darker and more terrifying than anything he'd faced before. Wilhelm's heart dropped. Who was this new presence? Prepare to lose everything. A voice slithered through the darkness, thick and mocking. What had he awakened? As dread clutched at him, he braced for the fight of his life, the shadows swirling ominously, the battle far from over. Would this new arrival spell doom, or was hope still flickering in the dark? The shadows writhed like serpents, contorting in ways that defied all logic. From the center of the darkness, a figure emerged tall, cloaked, and crowned in an aura of malevolence. It was as if every flicker of his presence sapped the radiant light around Wilhelm, dulling it almost to nothing. "Who are you?" Wilhelm gasped, pushing through the panic clawing at his throat. The stone pulsed weakly in his grip, like a dying ember awaiting a flicker of breath. "Just a collector of souls," the figure replied, his voice smooth and icy. "And today, I'm here for you and your precious light." The words echoed in the air, fragile and cold. Wilhelm glanced behind him, where the barriers they had forged now flickered uncertainly at the dark figure's arrival. She was there, eyes wide, fear echoing in their depths. "No, stay back!" he shouted, lifting the glowing stone into the air. "You won't take her. Not while I'm breathing." The collector's laughter filled the space, sharp and jagged, reverberating through the shadows like a heartless symphony. "Breathing? How quaint! I offer you a choice, little warrior, join the fallen or watch her suffer. Either way, your valor will be your downfall." He could feel the ice prickling his skin, creeping closer with each heartbeat. Time pressed against Wilhelm, every second feeling like an eternity as doubt swirled in the air. But that doubt wasn't, he knew he had fought through it before. Drawing on that rebellious spark, he summoned every ounce of willpower. "No!" he roared, and with a mighty thrash, he thrust the stone forward again, sending forth a wave of light. The radiance illuminated the dark figure, revealing a face carved from despair and hunger. The collector grimaced, his countenance flickering like wax in fire. "Your bravado is misplaced," he growled as the shadows around him thickened, twisting into jagged claws. They lunged toward Wilhelm, racing like an army of nightmares. Wilhelm's heart pounded in his chest, but he stayed rooted, arms steady. "I'm not afraid of you," he screamed, drawing power from the stone. The light blazed bright, pushing back against the edges of darkness, even as tendrils snaked towards him. "You should be," the collector hissed, the shadows flaring with an unsettling energy. "I am the end of hope, the warden of lost souls." At that moment, something broke within Wilhelm. The shadows clawed at him, unleashing dark whispers that wrapped around his mind like slimy vines. They spoke of failures he had faced, choices he regretted, deaths he couldn't prevent. A wave of panic threatened to crash over him, but he fought hard against it. "You don't own me," he shouted, a surge of resistance melding with the light. And then he sensed it, the warmth of her presence, bolstering his resolve. He could almost see her standing behind him, her warmth pushing back the cold. That flicker of hope ignited something deeper, a fire he didn't know he had. "Wilhelm!" she shouted again, her voice breaking through the suffocating shadows. "We're stronger together. Focus on me." He took a shaky breath, drawing the energy from the connection between them. The light surged once more, expanding with renewed purpose. The shadows screeched, recoiling from the overwhelming brightness. Suddenly, the collector lunged, a wraith-like blur converging on both of them, shadowy hands reaching for their throats. Wilhelm's heart raced, the moment of choice loomed large. "Now!" he cried, as he hurled the stone directly at their foe, its light twisting and thrumming with purpose. A brilliant explosion of light erupted, but as the radiance washed over them, Wilhelm felt a violent tremor rip through the ground. The walls of shadow buckled, and for a brief instant, it felt as if hope could finally prevail, but just as quickly, he saw the collector's darkness absorb the light, its sneer re-emerging amid the turmoil. "You think you can defy me? This world will know your pain." And with that, the shadows coiled deeper, wrapping around Wilhelm and her, pulling them inexorably into the depths. He felt their grip tightening, suffocating his resolve. As the light flickered amidst the approaching darkness, he wondered if they had indeed unleashed their doom. Would the nightmares consume them both, or was there still a way to break through? The struggle was just beginning, the shadows creeping closer, and Wilhelm braced himself for what lay ahead. Could he truly harness the strength of the light, or would it betray him in his most desperate hour? The darkness shrieked, a sound so gut-wrenching it echoed through Wilhelm's very being. Fear pulsed around him, wrapping like chains, but within that despair, a flicker ignited a stubborn refusal to give in. He could feel her not far from him, the connection curling through the shadows, grounding him in the storm. "We can end this," he shouted back at the darkness, defiance rising as the shadows tightened their grip. "False bravado will be your undoing," the collector hissed, its eyes glinting with malicious glee. With every ounce of will, Wilhelm shut his eyes against the oppressive pressure of doubt. "No. Not today," he roared, and with that, he summoned every memory, the laughter of friends, the warmth of family, the light that had been stolen from them all. The stone pulsed against his palm, alive with energy reflecting his rage and love. Together. He rallied, knowing the flickering warmth behind him was his beacon. He thrust the stone forward once more, channeling the power of their shared light, roaring forth with a determination that shook the ground beneath him. In an instant, an eruption of radiance burst forth from the stone, illuminating the shadows, forcing them to flinch and shriek. It engulfed the collector, wrapping it in brilliant light, driving back the swirling darkness. The shadows recoiled like creatures scalded by fire, the collector's features morphing from mocking to terror, but he knew the victory was not yet complete. With newfound strength, he didn't let up. "This is for everyone you've tortured," he shouted as he poured his heart into the light, letting it flow like a river of molten gold through the darkness. The energy built around him, forging a brilliant beacon that pushed, pressed, and surged towards the entity gripping them. "Stop!" the collector shrieked, its voice cracking, a mask of anger and dread. Yet, as the blinding light split the gloom, the darkness began to unravel. The wailing of lost souls echoed, pleading for the light that had long since faded, their cries giving voice to the misery that the collector had indulged in for centuries. "Wilhelm! Now!" she called, urging him on. That voice filled with fierce courage ignited a fire like no other within him. A glimmer of hope solidified, it was a promise. Together, they could emerge from this nightmare. With a primal scream, Wilhelm released the energy in a final relentless thrust, blazing against the shadows until the darkness shattered in a cacophony of screams. The very ground trembled, and a blinding explosion erupted, sending tendrils of darkness spiraling away, blinding light devouring everything in its path. He felt a rush of wind, a cool balm washing over him. As the shadows retreated, it revealed the desolate battlefield transformed, light breaking like dawn over the horizon. "Did we do it?" Wilhelm choked, gasping as the remnants of darkness slinked away into oblivion. Slowly, he turned to find her, face alight with joy, eyes sparkling like stars. "We did," she whispered, the fear melting from her expression. Together again, they had broken the chains that bound them. Together, they had fought back an ancient evil. As the first rays of true sunlight pierced through the gathering fog, Wilhelm let out a shuddering breath, relief flooding his veins. They were free. A tremor of noise echoed, and he halted, his heart racing. "What was that?" he asked, the air suddenly thick with anticipation. "Maybe it's the spirits freed," she suggested, a smile breaking forth, but uncertainty lingered in her eyes. Suddenly, a familiar spectral figure emerged, shimmering in the dawn light. It was Sir Aldrich, beaming with pride. "The battle was hard fought, but you two held the light against the darkness," he declared, voice resonating with strength. "Sir Aldrich!" Wilhelm exclaimed, overwhelmed. We won indeed, you did. Your courage and unity have rewritten the fate of the fallen. Their stories live on through you," Aldrich said, a knowing smile upon his lips. Wilhelm felt a swell of pride, yet sadness washed over him too. They fought the darkness, yet the scars of those lost still burned within him. Sir Aldrich spoke again, "Now is the time to honor those who suffered. Share their stories, carry their light. The past shadows your path no longer. The weight of truth settled, he had a duty to honor the fallen, to tell their tales. The stories that lingered could weave light into the hearts of others. With a nod, Wilhelm took her hand. We will, he promised, newfound resolve sparking between them. Together, they would journey to share the truth, to illuminate the paths of others who wandered too close to shadows. As they turned, the sun climbed in the sky, warm light cascading through the mists, chasing away remnants of darkness. The dawn felt vibrant and full of life. Let us go, together, he whispered as they stepped forward, ready to face each new day, bathed in the light of hope and the stories they would tell. In the distance, the last whispers of shadows faded away, as if finally taking their leave. The echoes of forgotten battles lay silent now, a reminder that even in the darkness, there lies the power of light and unity. The adventure was far from over. Together, they would continue to unearth histories and inspire light in hearts lost in shadow, and with that, they walked toward a future bright with possibility. Don't let this story end with you. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this electrifying conclusion. And, please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.